So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Michael Krider, CEO and founder of Wyld, a consulting and advising practice I started a few years back after about 15 years here working in entertainment. I started my career in theatrical marketing, working at DreamWorks Animation, and kind of rose through the ranks. I've seen entertainment through many different forms through the last 15 plus years, moving from theatrical entertainment at DreamWorks Animation to the rise of originals marketing at Hulu. I was on their very early stage team, to moving into live streaming and leading marketing for a platform called Caffeine that focused on live rap battles as well as a bunch of other content highlighting creators and emerging artists. So with that background, the last few years I've been advising mid-stage and early-stage startups, and I think, and one of them most recently that I was working with, which I won't name here, a competitor of yours, is what brings us to today's topic, which is short-form content. And with that in mind, a lot of us in the room, I think when we think of entertainment, we think of streaming television, series, film, events, sports creators. But there's a new form of content that is here, not just here, but abroad, and currently really dominating in China. And it's redefining the way content is not only developed, produced, but also distributed. So with that, I want to introduce our panel, and I want to turn it over to Joey and to say a few words.
Thank you, Michael. Hey, everybody. My name is Joey Jia. I'm the CEO and the founder of Crazy Maple Studio. Very recently, we released a vertical streaming platform called Real Short. So for people who are not very familiar with the platform, we're a 1-minute short drama. And we're consistently bring brand new content for the mobile user only. Thank you.
And Bennett, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, that was really short, Joey.
That's called short drama.
Short intros. These are the brightest lights I have ever seen, so that's incredible. So I'm a banker. I finance things, and in addition to long-form traditional content that I'm probably most well known for, a few years back we kind of dove into new media. Starting with MCNs, then moving into podcasts and mobile games and ad tech. And I go back and forth to Asia a lot. And in Asia, shorts are very popular. And so when I met Joey, I'm like, wow, this is it. We got to work together and help drive Real Shorts through the United States.
Thank you.
So Joey, I do want to dive a little bit deeper as it relates to short-form content, especially with your experience with Crazy Maple Studio. Can you give us, and highlighting specifically one of your products in Real Short, can you give us a little bit more background on Real Short? I think some of us here in the room might be familiar with a recent premium vertical-based app that was launched a few years back around the pandemic time, named Quibi. How is Real Short different or the same as something like that?
Before you go, can somebody either get the people outside who are talking to either come in or to shut the door so we can actually hear each other?
Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry.
No. So I like to start the conversation this way. So for a long time, as a content creators, we need to respect a fact is certain content need to serve on certain scenarios. But for such a long time, a majority of the content are designed for the theater, for TV, and we thought this is a way to create content. But actually, when mobile technology evolving, everybody using mobile phone become a major usage. As a content creators, we need to be smart enough to think, is this the best way to offer the content for mobile user? When I launch in the Real Short, I clearly say no. You cannot use in the traditional way to create content because the structure is different, the story beats is different, and the way the people absorb our content is very different. So we have to rebuild the content storytelling structures for mobile usage only. That's come all the way to support the entire team to building the real short. So we're not just like a 1 minute video long story platform. So we have to rebuild entire storytelling structures to fit the user, to fit the mobile usage. So when they only have a 5 minutes, 10 seconds, they can also absorb the certain content. So that's the initial thought why we have to build this.
And with that, can you expand a little bit and give us a background on just what that process looks like? I think we're familiar, many of us in this room might be familiar with the more traditional entertainment model. How is what Real Short is doing different than that traditional model from a production standpoint?
So the model is very new. When we launched in the Real Short, the biggest headache is how users can absorb our content. And traditionally, we have a classic theory called 3-act theories, for movie theaters. But unfortunately, when you're using the similar pattern to tell the story in a mobile phone, and people get no patience, especially for mobile users. So people feel lost. They don't understand what's going on in first 5 seconds or first 1 minute. Then guess what? They're gonna quit. Or deinstall your apps and disappear forever. So that is the moment I think we will have to think the way as a consumers and to building the story content for these scenarios. A few years ago, there is an app called QB. They did a fantastic job to record and bring the traditional, very classic shows to the mobile phone. But the biggest lessons we'll learn is short drama is not just like your category is short drama based on the minute, based on length. You have to base on the density of the conflicts. And so that's how we do the business. So we force our writers to create content using very strong conflicts every single minute. It sounds crazy. It's really challenging in the very beginning, but we go through it. And after we building the content, immediately we find out nobody understands how to shoot it. So they used to the way to shooting the traditional content, and they don't know how to shoot the vertical, and especially how to shoot in very dramatic ways. And we have to, to learn from each other to building the in-house, the production team. And right after you're done, you find a problem. Oh, nobody understands how to do post-editing, to cut in 1 minute. Okay, got it. So we have to rebuilding the team in-house to finding a way to deliver the content in 1 minute long post-editing work. Then it goes to marketing. And same thing, nobody understands how to promote this content. If you look at the ads from Netflix, from HBO, they just put on $1 million on the Facebook and driving traffic. It's what a waste of money. So then we have to learn how to using a very penny we earn and to supporting the efficient performance campaign. Again, we have learned by ourselves. So basically, after 2 years, the Crazy Maple Studio or Real Short has to building the team from very beginning to the end to end, to deliver the short content. Until today, I think we still have a challenge to finding the right writers, the director, and even the post-editing team to understand the model. But I think the good thing is the market already give a very positive signal. So our revenue grows rapidly, and the monthly active user almost hit 15 million monthly active users within 2 years. So I think we got a very positive feedback. Yeah.
That's wild numbers to see that. And did you mention that you're cash flow positive already as well?
Yes, our cash flow positive.
That's how we're sitting so close to each other.
That's
Banker joke, but
so Bennett, a question for you. I mean, as the banker, what trends are emerging around content that financiers are starting to pay attention to? Is it things like Real Short? Is it other types of content? Is there anything that you could share along those lines?
yeah, I think part of it was probably maybe to expand more on some of the areas that I first mentioned in the intro. For us, I think probably heading into, let's say, 2011 or 2012 when I started at East West Bank, the first thing I needed to do was figure out how to get to China. Well, that part was easy. I took an airplane. But once I got there, I had to figure out how banking worked because it was different, and and I didn't even know who the clients were. So we had to go figure out who are we going to talk to, who's going to bank with us, how do we make loans in China, et cetera, et cetera. And in the beginning, it was all about movies. And in China, they were bringing in a lot of studio films until they started really hitting it on making their own movies. And I watched in China how we would go from imported movies to local movies to satellite television to streaming. And then streaming took care of everything. Like today, if you're making new production in China, you're probably making it for one of the top three, Tencent, Youku, Aichi. That's where you're making it. And so on the other end of the spectrum, we saw a lot of platforms, if it was Bilibili, Douyin, et cetera, that would really focus on, in the beginning, it'd be more user-generated short something like YouTube, how YouTube used to be, I should say, right? Or how maybe Instagram, TikTok here in the U.S., for example. And then it really started to take off with like real series and then going into a subscription model. So back over here, as all that was going on, probably got to about 2015, and my boss, our chairman, our CEO, said, "Hey, when are you going to, start doing that digital media, new media stuff?" And my initial thought was, well, you can't really bank that. And so I just kept doing what I was doing. So maybe about a year later in 2016, probably from watching my kids and watching the way that they would consume media and information, I had this like cold sweat epiphany that I have to change like immediately or I'm going to be out of business. And so the first place that we started doing something were MCNs, because that's really a management company managing talent on YouTube. And then there's ads. And with ads, that's money that comes in every month. And so if you go to a bank and say, I need to get a loan, okay, how are you going to pay me back? Oh, I got these ads. And so from there, we started working with the companies who were making the ads on the ad tech side. And they were bringing, Fortune 500 company advertising onto our phones. If it's McDonald's, Toyota, Delta Airlines, whoever it happens to be, it was those companies who were bringing them there. And then we kind of fell in by accident into the podcasting world, learned about that, different monetization models, and then over to video games. And my short dream was, okay, how do we get shorter and really get into this market? And our great folks at East West Bank, I think some of them might be here, introduced me to Joey, and we started working together and collaborating. And I still have a lot to learn from him about how this works. But, in fact, I'll be in Singapore in 2 weeks doing exactly the same thing, looking at different models in Asia, a lot of which comes from China that they throw offshore and into the ASEAN territories, and trying to build that up as well.
How do you, Joey, I wanted to ask you this question. How do you see short-form content reshaping consumer financial expectations for entertainment, and particularly compared to traditional formats? Do you think they can coexist together? Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Short-form content is, I think, it will coexist with long-form content for a long time. We just served on the different purpose. If your expertise creating the long-form content, great. There's a film industry right there. If you want to creating your story for casual viewing, for casual user on the mobile, then you should have participate short-form content this program. So for me, they're not competing each other; they're help each others. But I firmly believe the short drama, like a real short, we're building the brand new industry. This industry, just like 100 years ago, the film industry when they just booming. So short drama industry is booming, and we will see a lot of participants and also a lot of content creators will jump into this industry and try to expand, bring the more diversity content to users.
And then a question along those lines. How is there anything that can be taken from your experience with gaming and how that's applied to a model like a real short or this short form style of content?
We're using a very different business model. So Netflix using subscription model. To be precisely, it's a prepaid model. For us, we're using a hybrid model. Gaming is very popular on in-app purchases, so we're adopting the hybrid business model. And because of the business model is very different, that leads to the different design philosophy on the content. I just come back from MIPCOM in France. There is the biggest show and TV treating the content. This is my first time to participate in the MIPCOM, so I heard a lot of new concept. So people talk about licensing the content, and when I ask, okay, how much this content is, and people say, oh, this is X amount of money per 1,000 minutes. So that's the traditional way you're selling your content, per 1,000 minutes. I was very surprised, to be honest. I think, why are you selling content based on the length? Think about this, it's a little bit contradictory. So if you're selling the content based on the length of, and the only way to maximize your profit is to getting the longer content. But people only have 24 hours, and their attention span is really getting smaller and smaller. So you're using a very different model to try to squeeze people's time, but nobody have time to do this. So I think this is a little bit too traditional to treating the content. So for real shorts, we have to reposition the content, define the good content in multiple ways. And so for me, the value of a content is not just the length. It's the way you're driving the traffic. It's the monetization ability and the retention. So, well, apparently we have very different understanding on definition on good content. So traditionally, they're selling the content based on the length, but we're selling the content using a very different way.
In a very different way. And I think that in-app purchase piece is so key to telling the story of how you're getting people to continually stay engaged by making those small purchases or purchasing an entire series at once relative to a subscription plan that just covers a wide gamut of content.
That's a huge difference. If you're selling your content based on the entire library, what type of data you think it can receive? The length of, how many people views and how long this people gonna drop, right? This is retention data. But if you're using the IAP as like a hybrid business model, you have to understand where people to pay the money, why they pay the money. And you have to understand what type of conflicts can drive in more traffic more efficiently. And you have to understand there is a retention as everybody look at it as a third way to judging the content. So because the business model is different, and the way we define the good story, good content are also different.
And with that, taking a look at that traditional distribution model here that I think many of us in the room are familiar with, with audiences shifting towards shorter, more mobile content, what are the biggest challenges for that traditional model? I'd love to hear from either of you as you think about it from your unique perspectives.
I think this is a problem created by the content creator ourselves. So we create the problems. So when you talk about the challenging for the traditional distributions, to be honest, I think we are the person to create all those problems. Why you're selling your content based on the prepaid model? Why you're selling your content based on subscription model? Why can't you sell your content based on pay-as-you-go model? And if you go with the library model, your subscription model, you don't really care about the real quality of the content. You care about the relationship with the platform. You care about the other stuff. So I think that this is the biggest, the fundamental difference when we design our content. And we have to think, okay, so the business model leads to a different way to design content, and try to stay away from a traditional way, the distributing content. We have to building our own distribution way.
No, say this is why I love his story, so much. When I study this medium in China, it's really all about subscription, and that's the only way. And as we were beginning our journey here, especially when we got into the mobile gaming side, when a company like Scopely, for example, really got into the freemium model. And my wife, who works at Blizzard, who does data, she's on their global insights team. And about a couple of years ago, they launched their first mobile game. And so she was working around the clock, just studying how they should monetize, and just trying out different models, and then looking at the data and the analysis, which I'm sure what you do as well, just to see where you can expand your market, expand your reach. And also for them, they have so many purists who are probably unhappy that they actually went mobile, that you have to manage that as well. And so I think coming back to the shorts and how this is taken off for everybody here, this is just the beginning. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And when you can find other ways besides subscription, then that actually reduces those barriers to entry, right? So that's what I learned from Joey, not to tell anybody to go compete with him, sorry. But, about how he got in. And so when you think about theatrical film, in the U.S., there's some big barriers to entry. Getting talent, getting release, who's releasing it, paying for the release, all these kind of things just kind of knock you out, right? Where in this medium, you just need clever idea.
This is actually happening in the traditional book publishing as well. So if I'm an author, I finish my book, I go to Amazon selling the book at $5, or I participate in Kindle Unlimited. It's really hard for me to understand why people pay for the book. Okay, and also it's really hard for people to really understand how many people they pissed after I pay the money. You don't know that, right? For pay per episode model is if you really love a story, pay the money in 5 minutes. If you hate the story, don't pay it. Don't pay for it. It's very simple. So that give the pressure to the content creators. You need to really understand your content, unless you want to sell.
Yeah, this highlights a story, just looking at kind of the model to get people hooked into this type of content. Going back to my days at Hulu, I can share that we would look exhaustively at how people were doing in the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, first episode, second episode, third episode. How many episodes do they need to see to be able to be hooked? What percentage of those will actually then move on to potentially subscribing to the platform or staying on the platform? And I think you get that data so quickly within the way that your platform is set up and these episodic series, that it's fascinating that we were building this big model around it, and you're like, just let the content speak for itself. They'll pay if they want to keep watching, and we'll make more if they want to keep
engagement and engagement and pay the money is two separate efforts. So if you simply want your content engage with your author, it's one effort. If you really want people to pay for your content, that's a different level of the effort.
Absolutely. So I think, as I know we're about up for time here, are there any parting thoughts that you want to share with the group about where you think this space is going to go? How do you think it's going to continue to evolve over the course of the next 5-10 years?
Oh, okay, thanks. Now, I think here that I think there'll just be a lot more folks doing it. And I think where Joey's at, being able to go from freemium, maybe there's also premium subscription, there's different models there. What I was thinking about is other things as well, and there's also music, and music kind of plays in this as well in terms of the music models. And we were looking at how we can help, let's say, newer bands who aren't big stars yet, how to finance their tour. We're actually putting one together right now as we speak, so that's an area that we've also jumped into. Music's important to us. And so I think you take traditional long-form content, you take music, you take the mobile phone, you take the shorts, kind of put it all together, and that's where I think everything is going. And for us, we like to make sure that we figure out first how to finance each one of these disciplines.
I'd love to have a deeper conversation about music and just what you were kind of alluding to there, Bennett. Like, this would be a fascinating topic to dive into next, to see how artists are going to evolve in this next space. Where does it go next? Joey, what about you?
I think it's called content evolution. So I'd like to answer your question in this way. If you look at the daily active user of the TikTok, globally they have 750 million daily active users. That's for free, vertical streaming video platform. And if you look at Netflix has 65 million daily active users for subscription model. So in the future, I think there will have a video streaming platform with hybrid business model. The daily active user will be between 65 to 700 millions. And I wish that company is called Real Short. Thank you.
Well,
That's the future.
Solid sell, Joey. With that, I'd like to wrap this panel and say thank you to Bennett and Joey for joining me.